Hi everyone, I'm Josh and welcome to Josh Wright Piano TV. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, I wanted to discuss 8 practice mistakes to avoid. These are mistakes I've made in my life. These are mistakes I see students of all ages and abilities make, and I hope this video can serve as a good reminder to each of you to avoid these. Maybe you are currently doing some of these. I know it's really easy to fall into the trap of any of these mistakes, even if you've been playing piano for years or even decades. We'll jump in with number 1. Practicing only in one tempo or mostly in one tempo. You might say, oh, I did my slow run through to warm up and now I'm just practicing fast because that's what I'm going to have to do in my performance. I think that's a big mistake to only practice in a medium fast or fast tempo. A medium too fast is what I meant. So almost up to tempo and then full tempo. I find personally that oscillating between very slow and then full tempo and then some medium tempo practice in between, especially when I'm in the learning phases and I'm gradually bringing things up to tempo, that medium tempo practice is crucial. So that's tip number 1. Make sure you are switching around tempi all the time in your practice sessions. You'll find that it brings a fresh perspective and will help you notice things that you may not have noticed, either technically or musically. Number 2, never play on other instruments. This is a big mistake I see with a lot of students. They get so comfortable with their own piano that it completely throws them off when they play on a different instrument. Now, everyone is in a different financial situation, a different geographical situation, so I know some of you won't have access to any other instrument. You might just have a digital piano and you live so far away from anyone else you may not have access to play on other pianos. That's okay, but any chance you do get, if you're traveling, stop by a little local piano shop and play their instruments. If you attend church, maybe you can stay after church and play on, a lot of churches have pianos. You can maybe play through your piece before or after church or during the week if you can get a key to get in the building. You can play for friends on their piano, or even you can play on digital pianos as well. I just recommend whenever possible to try to get some exposure to acoustic instruments, especially grand pianos, because they have a different mechanism. You can have the highest end Yamaha NU2 or NU3, I think it is, or N3, N2. Those are such nice digital pianos, but you still don't get the exact sensation of pushing down a key with an entire whippin, moving the shank, moving the hammer up, feeling the actual hammer hit that string, feeling the very slight vibrations of the piano. These are all tiny sensations that add up to a big experience, and it is very helpful to play on many different instruments. My daughter, we bought her a little Yamaha acoustic upright piano for her room. I've noticed even practicing on that from time to time really helps my technique a lot. You would think, why would that help when you have a Steinway here? But I noticed the difference or switching between these two. My wife and I saved for many years to be able to afford these two pianos. This is what we do for a living, so we thought it was important, and we also can play 2 piano repertoire. But I love this piano so much. I love the way it sounds. I used to like the action on that one even more. This one's getting really close or is equal to it. This one presented me with some issues, but we worked them out with a couple of local piano technicians who are just brilliant. And I've noticed, even though this is all tuned up exactly how I like it, both with the sound and with the action, if I practice on that piano, then I come to this piano, I play better. Or if I play on this piano and then go to that piano, I play better, because I'm always challenging myself to feel different sensations. I remember a friend told me that he was studying at Cleveland Institute of Music at the same time that Daniel Trifonov was there, and he would switch practice rooms every 20 or 30 minutes. That might just, be hearsay. I don't know. I didn't see that myself, but that was a great lesson for me, to always be challenging yourself with different instruments. And if you watch these famous concert pianists, they have to adjust to a new piano. Granted, they are some of the best pianos in the world on a lot of these stages that they're performing on, but they are always adjusting to other instruments. So that's very important. Any chance you get, play on different instruments. Mistake number 3, only having 1 or 2 practice strategies, exercises, or methods. So a lot of people only do slow practice, hands alone to hands together, and that's it. And then they'll just kind of meander through their practice session trying to bring it up to tempo. Or if they have a little bit more experience, they might be doing a few creative methods like finger staccato or high fingers or long short practice, long short rhythm practice, or short long. But don't let it stop there. Continue to develop more and more practice methods like 5-7-9 rhythms, the nocturne method that I've talked about on this channel and in my free webinar. If you check that out, in the link below, there's 10 of my favorite tips I use every day in my practice sessions and in my teaching. So these are things I stand by. If you haven't checked it out already, check that out. That'll give you some new ideas so that you're not just always going back to the same ideas over and over again. Mistake number 4, isolating yourself from outside help. It's always tempting to say, I'll figure this out eventually. But I can't even tell you, even now, even this year, I have texted one of my piano teachers. I've done lessons with her several times on new repertoire that I'm working on. I'm not doing a weekly lesson. I don't need her to hold my hand like I may have needed when I was an early teenager. But these are things that seeing a teacher and not isolating yourself from outside help, these are things that are very important for your development. I play for my wife all the time, and she's my biggest fan, but she's also a pretty harsh critic because I ask her to be. I say, what do you not like about that? So I'm working on the Bach Busoni Chaconne right now, which is such a wonderful piece. And she said, I like a lot of things you're doing, but I really did not like your articulation here. You need to be lighter here. You need to maybe observe your rests rather than pedaling through these in order to keep the textures consistent on the first 2 pages. And those were ideas that I'd never had and that I hadn't really heard much in recordings either. So playing for people that you trust, you have to be careful who you listen to. There are so many voices on YouTube, so many teachers out there. You have to choose who you're going to listen to and trust that person. I've trusted too many people in my life, I think, and it's had some negative effects. But I do have a core group of 4 people that I really listen to, my wife and then 3 teachers, Susan Duhlmeyer, Sergei Babayan, and Logan Skelton. And I've really kept to mostly trusting them with all of my pianistic needs, and it really helps a lot. I'm very lucky to have each of them in my life. You can also listen to recordings. That is one of the greatest ways to gain inspiration. Record yourself. You are your own teacher every single day, so recording yourself can almost put you in the third person, like you are your own student. That's very helpful. Performing for friends, and then also checking out instructional online courses or videos like this video. I have many online courses. I'll link those below if you are needing extra help. So just some ideas to not isolate yourself from outside help. Mistake number 5, this one I'm so guilty of, forcing things to happen. You need to slow down. Think through things logically, both physically, how am I moving my hands, and also musically. Where is this phrase leading? Where is it dying? Where can I take time? How's the balance between the hands? Are you forcing a technical issue? So is there a point that you could rotate a little bit more efficiently? Is there a place where you're stretching prematurely in anticipation for a passage? I know anticipation is one of the greatest tension setters, like setting intention, because we are getting ready and then we'll tense our hand for something that hasn't even happened yet. So thinking through things, not forcing things to happen. And slow practice is one of the best environments to discover ways of reducing tension and not forcing things to happen. Mistake number 6. This is an interesting one. I don't think I've ever really mentioned, or definitely not in detail on this channel, is fighting your instrument. Every piano is a little bit different. Some instruments are more heavy, some instruments are lighter, and let me tell you, a lighter instrument is not always better. I do like light actions because it's so demanding to play really virtuosic works on a heavy action. I'm not saying I love heavy actions, but would I rather take an ultra light action or really heavy action for a beautiful lyrical work. I'd actually take the heavy action for a lyrical work. Now, if I'm playing Chopin etudes or Liszt etudes or Rachmaninoff concerti or something very fast, I would much rather have the ultralight instrument. But really, somewhere in between is where I like to be. I like to be kind of middle of the road to lighter side on my favorite pianos. That's my favorite type of action. But I mention all of this because you have to adjust to the instrument you're performing on. If you are playing the Scarlatti toccata and the instrument will not repeat, that whipping is not rebounding quick enough, or like the repetition spring. I have a whole series of videos that Hiram Wiebel and I did called Prepping a New Steinway. You can check that out. And he goes over how to make the repetition stronger or weaker on a piano so it repeats quicker. But there are drawbacks if you make the repetition spring too strong, as you can see in those videos. So how is the piano responding to your playing? And you have to be able to embrace that. I like to think, I know this is an inanimate object, but I like to think of this as my friend. I know that sounds so cheesy and silly, but when I'm playing, if I'm fighting this and I'm forcing things to happen, I'm working extra hard, my performance will not be as good as if I really embrace the piano for what it is and not be thinking the whole time, I wish this had a lighter action, or I wish this repeated better, or I wish this part of the piano was a little softer or a little louder. So you have to embrace that. Having said that, have your piano technician fix whatever you need fixing on your own piano, but this is mostly for performance opportunities or places where you're playing on an unfamiliar instrument. Mistake number 7 is forgetting to film mistake number 7. No, mistake number 7 is to not have a long-term perspective, trying to force things to get done today and basing your self-worth or how you think about yourself or how you perceive yourself based on today's results, not thinking about progress and the journey. This is a trap that I've fallen into many times and something that you don't want to have in your life because it's destructive. It can have bad long-term effects. So make sure that you always think of things long-term. If you're learning a new piece and something isn't feeling comfortable, just take things slowly and try to find creative ways to practice, as we've mentioned in other points in this video. Seek counsel of a teacher or a friend who's more accomplished at piano, or online resources, whatever it might be. But keep that long-term perspective. I have a student who is retired and recently retired, and great pianist. He's a very accomplished musician earlier in life in other instruments and conducting, but he decided to take piano about a year ago, and his progress is tremendous. And he was just doing some basic Schmidt exercises at one point. They just help develop finger independence, and just in a basic way. It's not extensive studies with a million exercises. It's about 160 short one-measure exercises that you can transpose into every key. And he said, my hand really did not want to do this exercise or this group of exercises. But I thought, okay, I've got 2 weeks until I see Josh again. I'm going to just take this one day at a time, and hopefully something will happen in a few days with some persistence. And he said, sure enough, after 2 or 3 more days of just taking things slowly, my hand started to acclimate to that, and it was much more comfortable. I can't even tell you how many times that's happened to me. I remember when I first learned the Winter Wind Etude by Chopin, I was quite young, the Etude Opus 25, number 11 in A minor. And as I played that for different competitions throughout the years, my tempo, all the technical difficulties, naturally, the tempo got faster, the technical difficulties got easier. It was incredible without exerting hours and hours and hours of just drilling speed. Of course, I was practicing for hours and hours, but I wasn't just trying to get it faster or trying to force technique to get better. Similarly, in other really difficult pieces, I remember there were some places in Rachmaninoff Third Concerto that I was very nervous about going into the performance, but it actually turned out to be really good in the performance, and it was because I was very patient with things. So try not to have a short-term perspective. Make sure you have a long-term perspective and be patient and let things happen naturally. Mistake number 8 is practicing extremely doing extremely long practice sessions, or if you don't do extremely long practice sessions, but even if you're there for an hour, never taking a break. That's a big mistake that I notice. And there have been articles written, if I'm remembering it correctly, they said something like your brain can really only focus on something for a short amount of time, so you should be switching gears every 5 minutes. I think that's excessive. But I wouldn't be drilling something for more than 5 minutes. You could be working on a one-page passage for hours, but doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, like mindlessly, mind-numbing drilling is not beneficial to your practicing. So always be switching it up, even if it's just switching gears from, okay, I was really tuned into the voicing that time, bringing the melody out over the accompaniment. Now I'm going to focus on the shape. Now I'm going to focus on the rubato. Now I'm going to jump to a different passage. Okay, now I'm jumping to a different piece. Okay, now I'm going to work on some scales because I feel like that's a little weak, or, oh, this arpeggio is really bothering me in this piece. And that brings up another point. A lot of students say, how much technique work should I be doing? I don't think, 15 to 30 minutes of technical work each day is a bad thing. But however, once you have basic technical skills, I am a big fan of using your repertoire to develop your technique further. Because you're killing two birds with one stone, you are learning great repertoire and you're continuing to develop your technique rather than isolating 4 octaves up and down, scales, parallel. Of course, you can do contrasting motion, all sorts of different ways. You can check out the list technical exercises, which are wonderful. But having said that, I don't like to spend crazy amounts of time doing that either. So got a little off on a tangent there at the end, but they are things that I wanted to mention in this practice video. I hope today's video has been helpful. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and sharing this with anyone you think might get some benefit from it. I'll leave a few links in the description below. One of them is for that free webinar containing 10 of my favorite practice tips to take your playing to a higher level. I'll leave a couple of links for my paid courses. And finally, I'll leave a link for my gear kit. All the gear I use in the studio, the lighting, these mics, everything I use, as well as some books, theory books and other books and recordings that I personally like that have helped me in my career. I'll leave all of those in the description below. If any of you have any requests for future videos, please let me know. My email's josh@joshwrightpiano.com. Have a great week. Good luck in your practice sessions.